Welcome to Certain Point of View, your first step into a much nerdier world. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes. Just go to certainpov.com. Thanks. And now your hosts, Ben Milton and Addy Thomas.
What is up, Nerf Herders? I'm Addy Thomas.
And I am Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us. Today we're talking about the latest Marvel Netflix series, and you guys probably already know we are huge fans of the Marvel Netflix series, but Iron Fist has been getting a lot of flack for a bunch of different reasons. We'll let you know what we're giving it flack for in just a little bit. Before we get to that, update on our weight loss challenge as we just finish up our Arby's.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday to you, too.
Thank
We're just
you.
a day apart.
Yeah.
It's so adorable.
I know. We were destined to be friends.
I guess so. Well, but that's kind of contrary to what my interpretation of Star Wars is that it isn't about destiny. Well, I guess it's about like if you give yourself up to destiny, things go badly. But when you decide to make choice, then things go better.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's a good debate. Maybe that should be a whole
Didn't
podcast
work out
episode.
for Jar Jar.
All right. Well, anyway, so weight loss challenge. How you doing?
I lost a couple pounds this week. I think
Nice.
I'm down to 231, 32, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not bad. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling like I have a lot more energy.
Yeah.
I've only lost like 7 pounds or so. So I have a ways to go yet. I know that you've lost a lot more, but honestly, I feel pretty good about where I'm at. Like, I feel good about, I was able to correct the trajectory of going up in weight and bring it back down. So technically,
That's good.
Technically, I've lost.
You've actually lost weight. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I'm happy. How about you? How's it going for you?
It's slowed down, but it's still been going down. That's been the good thing. The thing is, and this is my problem. Like, I was talking to another friend about this the other day, and I'm just like, exercise is the thing that I hate the most. Like, eating right has actually been starting to get a little easier for me. I'm not craving a lot of the things I used to crave before. Like, before it was like I couldn't pass like bagels and like without wanting to have one, or pizza was a big, like, it's really weird that I am not craving pizza the way I used to.
That does seem strange to me, and maybe unnatural. We need to rethink this.
Well, maybe I'm tapping into Darth Pelagius's power to really to channel my. But you know, well, it's weird. Like, it's weird. Like, 2 slices will satisfy me now, which is, again, super unnatural. Now that's like with the Domino's like delivery pizza. Like, if I do an oven, you know, like
You get 3 brothers, you got problems.
you know what? I think with 3 brothers, I'd stop at 2. Maybe the 3. I'd go to 3, but I don't think I'd go further than that. Because they are big slices, whereas like a grocery store pizza that's like usually like a medium pizza, like I'll take down that entire thing easily. Like, there's not even a second thought. Like, I just need to make sure nobody else is around, just because I don't even want to have the question of like, hey, can I have a slice of pizza? Because that's not happening.
The answer is no.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am with that. And like, because with right now with exercise, it's just like what ends up happening is it's just I wake up and I'm like, I need to get a little extra sleep. And it ends up being too late for me to work out in the morning, and then I get home and I'm like, you know what, I'll work out in the morning.
Yeah,
and
Jenny
so
and
I'm
I
in that
had
endless cycle.
Jenny and I had anticipated being able to afford reactivating our gym membership by now, but we had a really bad news with our taxes, so we're not going to be able to do that as quickly as we had hoped. So yeah, so I'm trying to, like, she's been like running during the middle of the day, and now I'm like trying to figure out like, okay, like, am I doing, like, I gotta
What's a
like
good
squeeze in,
routine for
yeah, I
you?
gotta squeeze in exercise some other way now,
Right.
where I was really anticipating being able to just blow past you by jumping into a gym and just like working out like a crazy person for a while,
Yeah.
and just shedding weight that way.
Well, the good news is we also have 2 people who are joining us in our weight loss challenge officially.
Right.
We have Akid, who's joining us, a good friend of both of ours from a while. I've known him. I knew him in high school, like in passing, and you know, like over time we got to be better friends. So it's cool. Akid, welcome to the weight loss challenge. We need to we need to do a dedicated page showing people's results and stats and everything, and charting them against each other. And of course, another, you know, practically a member. I mean, he's a member of this podcast. He's
Pretty
just
much at
another
this
host
point, yeah.
of this show. And it's our own Case Aiken.
Yep.
Is joining us. in the weight loss challenge. And I guess we're just making them all different teams at this point.
I don't know what we're doing. We got to figure that out. I think we're gonna Case brought up a really good idea, which was to everybody joins either you or I's team,
right?
And then we pool all the results.
Oh, I like that
for a very public shaming of one of us.
Oh, that sounds fun. I like that.
I like that too, actually.
Yeah.
I like that too. I need to find a really fat person who's like going on The Biggest Loser and get them on Team Ben. That's my strategy to win.
Right. Well, we'll keep you updated with what's going on with the weight loss challenge. All of that is on our website, certainpov.com. While you're there, you can check out Patreon, how to be a part and help this podcast. If that's something you'd like to do, if not, you can still listen to us for free. We are still available for free. But we'd love if you share the podcast with other people that you think would enjoy the show. Again, all of that is at certainpov.com. Iron Fist, Ben.
Yep.
So
it was a show.
Yeah. So my overall review is once I got used to what this show is, like it's not that I was bored. I never necessarily was bored with the show. I know a lot of other people were, but it wasn't the story it should have been, or it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. And it's still, like, as far as shows go for what it is, I think it is still, for the most part, a decent show, and it's still head and shoulders of the vast majority of network and cable TV. But it's not particularly good.
It's not good. It's not particularly good. It's not good. Like, it's missing on just about every cylinder that you want it to work on. It's missing in the actors, like the casting of Danny Rand with what's his name, Finn Jones, who's a fine actor. He proved that in Game of Thrones. He's a fine actor. There's nothing wrong with him as an actor. There's just seems to be something missing with him and this character. It just doesn't quite work. And I think a lot of that has to do with the script. But he doesn't work as Iron Fist. He kind of works as Danny Rand.
Yeah, I think he definitely works for the Danny Rand that they wanted. I think the problem is their concept of Danny Rand is all about being Danny Rand and not really Iron Fist. Like, it's all about him being in New York and coming back to that and abandoning his responsibility to overcome his fears and trauma.
Which brings up my other criticism of, like, it doesn't work for like on an acting level. It also doesn't work on a story level. Like, the story itself is extremely flawed. It feels very rehashed. It feels like we've seen this before. And I mean, and part of that
is the nature of the character.
For sure. But there's other things that you can do with that character to not make that story feel so dumb.
Right. Well, I think embracing the kung fu aspect would have definitely separated itself from the majority of what we see on TV right now. You know, Into the Badlands is really the only other show that has any sort of kung fu martial arts.
No, that's not
true. Experience.
Totally not true. Like,
currently on right now,
Arrow. Like, there's tons of kung fu. Like, those fight scenes are martial arts fight scenes.
I guess they're
not. I guess they are martial arts fight scenes.
Yeah,
that's exactly what they are. And
you haven't watched recently.
And they are so much better.
Yeah, you haven't watched recently.
They're so much better.
Good.
They're not good.
Yeah,
they're not, especially when you're comparing it to Enter the Badlands, who's
no, I'm not comparing it to Enter the Badlands.
That's the third pillar where it really falls apart. Isn't it's martial arts? It's a martial arts story. It's a martial arts hero,
right?
Who can't do martial arts,
right?
Like, you can tell, like, they're using stunt doubles. And in an age of, when there's John Wick and John Wick 2, where Keanu Reeves is doing all that work himself. And
on
a very extremely affordable budget. And the camera never cuts away for a stunt double to go do something for him. He's doing that action live. And the only reason you cut is to, like, get a close-up of a facial for a reaction or something like that, or to see something very specific. This style of action and the way that they shot it feels 10, 15 years old.
Yeah.
In the way that it's handled and the way that it's done. And when, Finn Jones, who again is a fine actor, but clearly has never thrown a punch in his life.
Right.
Clearly has never been in a fight.
I did get invested enough in the story, so I wasn't as critical about the action, but I totally agree with you. Action is not good. It's not up to the standard. It is not up to the standard that it should be by any means.
It gets better
Yeah,
as the show goes
and they
on,
have
but it's never good.
They have an explanation for it, but it isn't like I know you don't buy it as much. He definitely needs to be a better martial artist because he's still the champion of Kunlun, but they've given it he has not completed his training story, like that caveat, so that that's why he's not that good.
But how do you become the champion of Kunlun if you haven't completed your training? He's beaten who?
Now
in that case,
that's the thing though. With Iron Fist lore, there are people who are better than him. Just being
but he's also been several times in Iron Fist lore. He's the best martial artist on the planet. There's several times where that's the impression, and that's the story of Danny Rand, is that he is the best martial artist on the planet. And he's nowhere near that. This guy gets his ass kicked in every fight. Against like minions, just regular hand-foot soldiers, he struggles.
Yeah, see, this is now that's the thing that I don't have as much of a problem with, because I don't want the problem that we've had on some of the CW shows with like Arrow, and I enjoy Arrow for the most part. I enjoy The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow. But the thing is, early on, those guys go with like, we don't know how long we're gonna last. Let's do everything we can. Let's just go crazy. This is height of their powers. Like Barry gets into the Speed Force season 1 of The Flash, so they have to do crazier and crazier things, do somersaults with the story, with a plot. Like, I mean, they went for League of Assassins crazy season 3 of Arrow, and it was so far out there that it was like you didn't buy it anymore. I like the idea of restraint in that story, that his training isn't complete and that he should have issues with the hand. Like I think because then you have not just character growth as the series continues, but also growth in what you do as far as action and how spectacular it becomes. But that doesn't absolve them of bad action by any means. Like I don't want to say that it was good action by any means, but I think that's fine. Like I think it's fine that I do like the idea that he isn't complete, because for many times in Iron Fist lore, it's established that Davos is a better fighter than he is, and has a superiority thing over him, and feels that he shouldn't have been Iron Fist, and then Davos should have been Iron Fist. He's the son of like the guy who's in charge of the guy who trains the people, the warriors who will go up against Shao Lao and become the next Iron Fist. So that makes sense to me, but you're absolutely right. They needed to do better. They needed to do better with the action.
Yeah, but I mean, he says in the show, I kicked your ass a dozen times in training, and I kicked your ass again. Now yield. So, is he the best fighter or isn't he?
Usually they go for, and this like the typical Marvel way, because it's about character, not necessarily the powers. It is Danny Rand's heart that makes him the greater warrior, not necessarily the physical ability. I know that sounds like a cop-out, but like, let's be honest, that happens with a lot of superhero characters.
Well, I mean, and you see that in MMA too, where like a guy who may not be the most skilled fighter just guts and wills his way to victory. So it's not like that's never been done in real life either. It's just
kind of like when Ewoks defeated the Empire.
Oh, come on, man. Come on. We were having a good conversation, and you got to go there. It's just, there's so many problems with this show. This show basically is Thor 2.
I actually think the story should have been called Meet the Meachums.
It was more about the Meachums than it was Iron Fist, for sure.
Right, because it was more about like Rand as a company and their place in the world, and than anything else,
and their relationship with the hand, and it really all this whole purpose of this entire season, all 13 episodes of the season, were just to introduce Danny Rand to New York City and have him meet Claire, and to establish that the hand is using Rand as a drug empire, for their drug empire.
Right.
That's
Which we kind of already got an idea.
Knew. Yeah, the only thing
in Daredevil.
The only thing we didn't know was that they were using Rand Enterprises to do it
as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there are other factions of the hand, which I will say that was a fascinating okay, like the reveal that Bakudo.
His hand and and Colleen is part of
that.
that.
Was like I was genuinely like surprised by that. Madame Gao totally owns the screen when she's
so
on.
good. She's so good.
So there were like and I also think Colleen Wing was a very fascinating character for me. I found her interesting.
She was the most interesting character.
And honestly, in the same way that in some ways Misty Knight was very much the lead of Luke Cage, it feels like Colleen Wing and Misty Knight really deserve their own Daughters of the Dragon spinoff
For sure.
show. They
sure.
They really do.
More so than Heroes for Hire at this point, in my opinion.
I think so too. I'd agree with you. As much as I liked Luke Cage, these two characters have been really stand out. And on the level of Jessica Jones, you know,
those three in a series together, forget about it.
Yeah.
I'd watch that absolutely.
Yeah, and
I'd get a different showrunner than what they chose for this season.
Well, I would go with the showrunner who did Jessica Jones. You know, because I think she gets
did a
the
great
character.
job, yeah, for sure.
And she gets character is the other
Yes.
thing. She uses it wasn't an action heavy show in the same way that Iron Fist wasn't really an action heavy show, which
For
is a shame.
martial artist, there was no action. But he used the Iron Fist 10 times.
Yep, exactly 10 times.
13 episodes.
So
he
10
uses
times.
it 10 times. And they're all lame.
And they did a total. Well, I wouldn't go. They were all lame. There were some cool moments. Let's
Only the last episode.
I did enjoy a couple Iron, like when he did power up every now and then when he used it. Well, yeah, it wasn't. I agree, it wasn't great, but I thought there were some cool moments when he does use his power. When he does use his power, when he does, like when he is fighting Madame Gao and then decides to take down the door instead. I thought that was cool. I genuinely enjoyed that moment. You didn't.
It was so predictable.
Yeah,
There's
but
so many predictable moments.
it was, but it still was satisfying.
No, it wasn't.
That wasn't satisfying
I
at all?
didn't. No, I didn't find that satisfying. Because I was still mad about the drunken boxer fight.
I didn't
because
hate
it was
the drunken
so
boxer fight.
Bad. It was so bad. Like,
Which is interesting since that guy was
that
considered.
guy should have been Danny Rand.
Yeah, that was the guy who was considered to be Danny Rand before they cast Vin Jones. There were moments here and there I saw fragments of hope. Like I did enjoy the episode where Danny faces the challengers from the hand. Because I really liked when they used Lei Kung's voiceover to kind of give him that sort of like the internal monologue to guide his character. So I thought that was interesting. And that was a device that I kind of thought would have been a real, like, because they kind of try to establish that there's like the Iron Fist is sort of is a personality and obligation that pulls him in one direction, and Danny Rand is pulling him in another. And they kind of represent that also with Claire trying to bring out Danny Rand rather than Iron Fist necessarily, or at least find somewhere in between, you know, for that to coexist. And I actually would have liked the idea of the voice of the Iron Fist being Lei Kung. You know, maybe I don't know if that would have gotten too tiresome throughout the whole series. My favorite,
It wouldn't have gotten any more tiresome than the stupid, shaky cam with the lines of I'm having a PTSD episode.
Yeah,
that was so annoying.
Yeah,
so annoying.
No, I was not a fan of that. Early on, I was okay with it, but it was
got
overused
old super quick.
It was overused. This show with how infrequently they use the Iron Fist, though. I talked to one of the guys we were watching the show with, and I ended up finishing the show with Theo. I told him we need a charge bar at the bottom of the screen to show you like when he can eventually use it. So
yeah, and that was frustrating too, because I guess my level of expectation was, and I get that they went with the like, his training isn't complete yet status idea, but my level of expectation was like, he's the Iron Fist, he knows how to use this thing, he knows how to charge it, like, and seeing him struggle with it for so long. I mean, up until the final episode, he's struggling to even use this power that he has as the Iron Fist. Seemed really like the whole he hasn't completed his training just seemed like a shitty way to save on an FX budget.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad story. it's definitely a bad excuse if that's your rationale for bad action. The thing is, like you said, the bad action wasn't limited to just Danny, though. You know, it wasn't like it was just scenes with Danny that were bad. There were other ones that were bad too. There were scenes without Danny that were also good. Like Colleen's fight with Bakudo was a cool fight.
That was a cool fight.
But it also, you didn't necessarily get the wushu kind of stuff that was happening. It was still kind of grounded. Like, you had like a little bit of a moment where Colleen is like stepping up into the air.
Jump, yeah.
Yeah, but it looks like she's about to do like a total wushu, like start stepping up into the air.
I was about to get excited. I was like, yes, that's what I want.
But can you do that in the universe that they've created with the Defenders?
Yes.
You think so?
He's Danny. His hand glows with chi power. You're talking about the same universe that Doctor Strange exists
Very
in.
fair, very fair.
Yes, you can do that.
But
stuff
do you think
if you're explaining it?
Do you
with
think
chi.
you risk making the other three Defenders useless?
No, no, absolutely not. No,
I think that was their thought process with
Luke Cage can't get shot.
yeah, well, unless you have the Judas bullet.
Yeah, that's the only thing that can hurt this dude. Like, no, yeah, I mean,
yeah. See, the thing is, and that's what I kind of so that
to me,
but
Iron
that's
Fist
also
feels very underpowered compared to the rest of them. He's not as
Yeah.
good of a fighter as Daredevil,
yeah. Okay, I'll give you that. I was hoping for Stick to show up in this show
and just kick the shit out of him. To be
yeah,
honest.
I know, right?
Because he would.
When Bakudo first showed up, I was thinking, oh my god, are they gonna have a connection with like Stick's group?
That would be great.
But then when they showed the compound and everyone was wearing scarlet, I was like,
Wait
this feels
a
like the Foot
minute.
Clan and Shredder's gonna show up. And the Foot Clan is like the hand. No, there's no way they can do that. And then they revealed
And
it,
then
and I
they
was
did it,
like,
yeah.
I guessed it.
You bastards. I do. Yeah. I mean that. I feel like Danny Rand is the weakest
Yeah.
of them all.
It would have been interesting, and I was telling you this in the car, because they didn't really accomplish much. Like, it feels like they treated, like, you compared it to Thor 2, which is a very apt comparison. I've been kind of feeling a lot of the flaws in the last 3 shows that we've had, specifically Iron Fist Season 1, Luke Cage Season 1, and Daredevil Season 2, have been very focused on sort of putting all the pieces in and arranging them for the Defenders in the same way that Iron Man 2, Thor 1, and Cap 2 kind of suffered from real, like, satisfying resolutions.
Yeah. Totally.
You know, and I feel like that's been part of the flaw with this.
Yeah.
The
They're so
gla-
excited about going to Defenders.
Right.
That they're not making good standalone seasons.
Right. Now, that being said, Daredevil Season 2 was still very good.
Very, very
good. I like the end of Luke Cage thematically, but it definitely has third act issues without a doubt. I can't pretend that it doesn't. Iron Fist, I kind of felt like it had the first half was rough and the second half doesn't redeem it, but I did find the second half much more fascinating.
Yes.
Especially because Madame Gao becomes much more of a force. Bakudo and the Hand become much more interesting.
Things start happening.
Once Papa Meacham gets killed and then resurrected, things become interesting. You know, at first I didn't really care for Warren Meacham, but his redemption arc by the very end,
It's
I did
compelling,
find,
yeah.
I did absolutely find that compelling. And as much as I smelled it coming a mile away, like from episode 2, that Joy was going to end up going dark, it still was satisfying. For me, like that arc. Like if you're watching this, I think you need to watch this show as this is the Meacham family story.
Yeah, because it's not an Iron
featuring
Fist story.
Iron Fist.
Yeah, with an occasional appearance.
Like this is more like those. Well, I forgot the names of this specific Marvel team up series, but it was like everything was like it was all Thing teaming up with other people, and this is what it felt like with
Yeah.
the Meacham family.
Totally.
Almost. Claire had an interesting. Like they kind of used her the way Luke would have been used in this series, which was felt very forced because she was serving as the grounding element for the series.
And if she said "Sweet Christmas" one more fucking time,
I didn't have a problem with that.
I did. That's not her catchphrase.
Yeah,
Okay,
but she's totally into him.
they weren't together that long for her to be that into this dude. Like, I'm sorry, that was a little
They got coffee, man.
whatever, dude. Whatever.
But okay, so this is the thing, though. the problem was the story was they tried to ground it so much already because this showrunner, this is my biggest issue with the series. This showrunner clearly doesn't get the character, clearly is afraid of the mysticism and the kung fu aspect of this character and this franchise, and they definitely need to find someone else. They need to find a better writer. That just get Steven DeKnight or the two guys, like even the two guys who did Daredevil season 2, like they did a decent job. They just did too much.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
they if they just back off a little bit on cramming it so full, that would have been a perfect.
So you still have some good quiet character moments, and there were
there was a couple really good of the good moments of that, with like Punisher and Daredevil in the cemetery.
Right.
And stuff like that.
But there were so few. There
wasn't enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially when it came to Elektra, which was such a big part of that particular series. But yeah, coming back to Iron Fist, you need to have better writers. But I say
and you need to have somebody who understands that character.
Get whoever is doing Into the Badlands and just get a good writer paired with them.
And spend some time with your actors so that they learn how to do the stunts.
Right.
And the fights. Because this, Mark Bernardin had a link up on his Twitter of in one fight scene, it was like a 50-some second fight scene, there was 36 cuts.
Yeah.
In this fight scene, and it was clearly they were like just jump cutting around
to
hide the fact that there were stunt doubles involved in this fight because there weren't actors.
And there were moments that they were going to split screen to also kind of throw off your focus, so you saw action, but you didn't
know what was really happening. You couldn't tell who was doing it.
Right, which it was sort of interesting visually when I was first watching it, but when I realized what was happening, it was kind of like, okay, that's not cool.
Just take the time and get Finn Jones in a warehouse and teach him the moves for the fight.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. Just take 6 months, teach him the fights.
Because I think he's totally capable of
he's a
taking
fine
on
actor.
this. Yeah.
He's a fine actor. It was clear he wasn't doing the fights.
Yeah.
It was clear. Like, as a guy who watches probably anywhere between 2 and 8 hours of MMA a week, it's clear that guy's never thrown a punch before.
Right. So here's my other big suggestion. And I doubt they'll ever do this. Well, there's actually two. First off, if The Flash on that budget can afford to animate Gorilla Grodd, they can afford to do Shao Lao the Undying. Even for a brief bit. We didn't just copying out and doing the eyes was lame. They absolutely
didn't even look good.
Yeah, they absolutely could have done that. Like you could have made Shao Lao cool. You could have embraced that aspect. Again, they were just afraid of anything that had to do with any sort of mysticism. So then the other thing, and maybe this is because I really, really like the Brubaker and Fraction run on Immortal Iron Fist. The device they use in that run is sort of like the book of Iron Fist. And what had happened is there was another guy, actually he was another white Iron Fist, I think like one Iron Fist ago or maybe 2 ago or something, who abandoned being an Iron Fist altogether, ran away from it. It is on the run so that he isn't found and killed, basically. Even he's down to hiding his chi, basically masking it. But they use this book as a way for Danny to connect things that Danny's learning now to lessons that other Iron Fists have learned in the past.
Okay.
I think the reason why I think that's a cool thing to do, one, you get a couple other flashes to other interesting stories. You can do some really cool martial arts stuff, some interesting stuff. Netflix has a budget to do some cool stuff on Marco Polo. They absolutely in that style with some of that. They absolutely, it's not that there isn't any precedent for that kind of action. But I think what it also does, it also carries on the idea of the Iron Fist being this title and this legacy that he's a part of. And that was something that was never alluded to at all. I think honestly, you had to know that about the character for that to come across.
There's a lot about that character that was really explained badly or not explained at all. Or just assumed that the audience would know this,
right?
And knowing and that was a huge mistake because that's what led to me feeling very gypped about the character. I know the Iron Fist is a badass martial artist,
Right.
not a bad martial artist,
Right.
which is what this Iron Fist is.
Right. So let's move on. Like, unless you got any other criticisms for the show, do you have any more?
I didn't like the music.
I was okay with the music. It wasn't great, but I was all right with it. The
intro?
open was not very good because it
Should have
felt
been
like
for Venom.
Yeah, it was like we saw like a Venom possessed Iron Fist. Like, why wasn't it glowing and why was it all black?
It made no sense to me. It made no sense.
It was a weird art direction to go with. But again, get the guy who did Dexter off of this show.
Quickly.
Very quickly. He should not have any. He should not be allowed.
He's a fine director. He's a fine showrunner. Just not for this.
Well, apparently this is
section.
the guy who did the last couple seasons, and I've always heard people hate those last couple
seasons of Dexter were pretty awful.
Were they? I've never watched Dexter. Never really appealed.
It
to me.
ended really bad.
That's what I heard. So this is the guy who finished off the series. So if that's the
well, then
case.
forget it. Let this guy rot in hell.
So now this is. Let's move into some sort of like maybe predictions for what we're expecting for Defenders and for the future of Iron Fist and for these characters and things that we'd like to see. Like instead, so that we're not just totally crapping on this franchise, because I think we still really enjoy Marvel Netflix.
Oh, for sure. And again, like this again is a Thor 2 movie. It's a forgettable series, but it sets up for the future.
Right.
Its only purpose was for 13 episodes was to set you up so that when the Defenders come, you're ready for it.
So we obviously know the Hand is the big bad for the Defenders.
Clearly.
And
Clearly.
will continue to be for Danny Rand most likely.
Yes.
What is going on in this whole universe, in the New York Defenders universe?
That's unclear. And for all the setting up that they've done, it's still very unclear, other than selling heroin through Madame Gao. It's
the only
very
constant.
unclear that we know what the Hand is up to.
So the interesting thing with Madame Gao that I always find fascinating, obviously she's not a good guy. She's not a bad guy. What would you call that in like D&D terms? Like,
she's chaotic evil.
right? Okay, yeah, that's
She's an agent of chaos for evil.
okay. Yeah, that's fair. But she's always truthful. Is the interesting thing.
Oh, for sure.
Which I find a very interesting aspect to her character. I'm interested to see, like, I still kind of think she's Crane Mother, and that has bigger implications for Danny's character down the road, potentially, especially with Kunlun going missing now. So I am fascinated by what is happening there, like why Kunlun has disappeared, and how they're going to get back. Obviously, he's going to have to go back to New York now. Because, we have
that
Defenders.
seems like a very convenient reason to drive him back into New York. But
Right.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah. But at least it's a little bit. I appreciate that over. Well, Luke Cage has got to go to jail, even though we have the papers and we just need to file them.
To me, it's about the same level of convenience.
I think it's a little bit better. At least there's continuing mystery. Like, you see the problem with the Luke Cage resolution is what the answer is to get him out of prison. It's just a matter of paperwork. Whereas, like, at least with Danny, you're like, this is a big deal. Like, how are they going to figure this out? And like, is this going to be figured out in Defenders or Iron Fist season 2?
I didn't care. I didn't care if they figured it out. I was like, actually, it's convenient.
Yeah.
It's super convenient. It takes Danny back to New York City instead of like trying to figure out a reason to pull him back to New York City.
Well,
like it's a convenient excuse. The same way it was a convenient excuse for Luke to go to prison.
That's true. Well, I think we're going to see. So another thing that I noticed was mentioned. I don't remember if it was Madame Gao or Bakuto who mentioned it, but Roxxon Corporation
Is involved, yeah.
which is the corporation that is in charge of the drug that Jessica Jones had the accident with.
Yes.
That created her, that gave her
powers,
superpowers. Yeah. So we have a clear connection there. So I guess we're going to see all these different factions of the Hand, because we have like Nobu's faction from Daredevil. We have, I guess, Roxxon Corporation with Jessica Jones. Luke Cage, we just got, Daredevil's probably going to get him out of prison. Just file the paperwork.
Doesn't seem that hard.
Right. and then of course, we have Bakuto's faction and, Madame Gao's faction. And I imagine we're going to see the Hand unite against the Defenders, and then them going to have to, the various factions of the Hand have to unite against.
Because we also Defenders for them to unite against. It's not like what are the, I don't know. I don't
Well,
know.
we have the big pit in the middle of New York that we got to figure out the purpose
I think,
for.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Stick will somehow drive that fight.
Yeah,
to
I
bring
think so too.
to bring
To bring 'em all
everybody
together.
to kind of to be the force that kind of brings it all together, that makes that happen. I don't know. It's like that's one thing they've kept that really close to their chest of the hand, and like are they the big bad? Are they just somebody's henchman?
Well, so the other thing is we also know Sigourney Weaver is sort of the big bad.
Yeah.
So this is I've heard an interesting theory.
Okay.
So Madame Gao mentions that when she reaches out to Wendell Rand and then and of course Harold Meacham, that she reached through Danny's mother, recruited her into the hand.
Right.
And they've pointed out several times that they've never recovered her body. And she's also a member of the hand. Like, that was a repeated... Like, they made sure to point that out several times during the series. Do you think there is any chance that Sigourney Weaver is going to be Danny Rand's mom?
Well, no. And I'll tell you why, because we've seen Danny Rand's mom.
Yeah, it's been 15 years.
She doesn't look anything like Sigourney Weaver.
That's fair. I guess they're just brunettes. That's about it.
I don't think so. I would be shocked if they
Well,
went with that.
imagine like let's say Danny Rand's mom is like completely broken, and like we've seen like the weird like pot, like the iron lung device thing that the hand have had, and they can bring people back to life. But maybe her body is in such disrepair they have to, let's just say they have to transfer her soul over to Sigourney Weaver's body. I don't know. Do you think there's any chance of Danny Rand's mother becoming a bigger deal down the road?
Yes. But is she Sigourney Weaver? No.
Okay. It's interesting. I just want to throw out theories.
It's a good theory, and I think they laid that groundwork. And hopefully it does go somewhere, and it's not just we were just throwing this out there and we never resolve it.
Right.
I think it's a great theory, and it would make sense that you would now like the way they've set Danny Rand's character up is like it's this fight between Danny Rand and being Danny Rand and the Rand Corporation and being the Iron Fist.
Right.
Like it's this internal battle of who is he, it's this identity crisis. So introducing his mom to force that issue of being Danny Rand versus the Iron Fist is a compelling story for that character, the way they've set it up. So yes, I think they do go that direction, and I think we will see that actress again.
Okay.
In that way. But I don't think that Sigourney Weaver is going to be the big bad. I don't think that I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd like to see going forward. Daredevil Season 3, Jessica Jones Season 2. Obviously, we're getting Punisher Season 1. But I don't know if I want Heroes for Hire and forego Luke Cage and Iron Fist altogether, or continue to let them have their own series, but for God's sake, make sure Iron Fist is a big part of Luke Cage's series, and make sure Luke Cage is a big part of Iron Fist's series. Like, don't just have these guys, like, passing in the night. Like, the way, like, as involved as Luke was in Jessica Jones, we need that kind of stuff. And even more, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, at least half to three-quarters of the episodes should have both of them in it.
Right. Like, you have this Defenders verse, use them all in these movies. Like, it seems weird, and this is and like I know we're also not fans of the fact that we don't have characters from the movies crossing over in the Netflix series and vice versa. It's weird that you can't get Marvel TV and Marvel films working together, but you can get Sony and Marvel movies working together. You can get Tony Stark in a Sony Spider-Man movie easier than you can get these two universes, the Defenders verse.
It doesn't
and the
make any
Avengers
sense.
verse,
It doesn't
the
make any
cross.
sense at all when it's you own all of it.
Yeah.
It's unexcusable, and they don't even use them correctly in their own series. Jessica Jones was mentioned
Yeah.
in Iron Fist, and we don't see her.
Yes.
Ever.
We see Jerry Hogarth. She's
great.
She's straight up used by Joy Meacham to get photos.
Yeah.
And we don't
And
even have like a
mentioned.
5-second.
And here she is,
Yeah.
like, delivering the photos, just making a snarky comment. Like,
Right.
we just get dialogue about it.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't afford Kristen Ritter for, for 15 minutes of shooting one day.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah,
it
that was
doesn't-
frustrating.
It doesn't make sense. It's lazy, it's cheap, and it's frustrating when you say you have a connected universe. that this stuff is happening in, but we don't see it actually being connected.
Right. Other than in Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is the only show that has actually done that.
Daredevil season 2. I mean, you got to see Daredevil and Punisher.
But they were like that. It was planned. I mean,
I guess you're right.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
Where
yeah.
we knew we were getting a Luke Cage show, and we got Luke Cage as a major character in Jessica Jones.
Right. True.
Like he had his own major arc and everything. Whereas there wasn't a Punisher series planned. People reacted so positively that they were like, you know what, we need a Punisher series.
Yeah.
At least we're seeing good stuff like that a little quicker.
Yeah.
Like the MCU hasn't. I mean, obviously it's not able to react as quickly, but we haven't seen a Black Widow movie. Even though
will we.
You don't think we ever will?
No.
They can't afford. I don't think they can afford to hold on.
I think
to her long enough to do
I
that.
think that they've got their plans, and it's so scripted out they can't. It's too big to move that ship.
Yeah.
So
anyway, let us know what you think of Iron Fist. Do you care what happens in the future? Do you have predictions for the future? Are you still looking forward to Defenders? We still are. You can let us know on our social media, and while you're there, you can check out the Weight Loss Challenge. You can check out Patreon. You can share us with your friends. All of that is on our website, certainpov.com. Now, until next week, stay scruffy, my nerf herders.
Thanks for listening to Certain Point of View. Don't miss an episode. Just subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on iTunes. Head over to certainpov.com.